Guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
First one is titled, I'm deaf, she's stupid and he's a frickin' legend. Allow me to set the scene. Unlike most other people that study full-time in higher education and then get a job, I only studied part-time while holding down a few part-time jobs at the same time. One of these jobs was a school bus driver, which is what my story will focus on. Second thing, I'm deaf. I cannot hear a single thing without a hearing aid, and with it, I still hear significantly worse than the average person. I generally communicate using BSL, British Sign Language. But I can talk just as well as anybody else, I just can't hear what you're saying back. Now, I ran one of the afternoon bus routes from the local public high school. It was a pretty easy job and I only got trouble if the kids were a bit too hyper, which was quite often the case. On this particular day, I was at the second last stop when I met my first Karen. I stopped the bus to let everyone off and a stressed out middle-aged woman walks on board, with two toddlers behind her. This happens quite often. Someone will mistake the school bus for a public bus and they just sorta laugh it off when I explain they can't get on and go back to waiting for their bus. So, using both sign language and just talking, I explain to the woman that she can't get on the bus. Then she launches into full Karen mode. What do you mean I can't get on the bus? She screams. That's your job, isn't it, to take me where I want to go? Please bear in mind that there's still a dozen teenagers in the back, and they're going absolutely wild laughing at the woman. I didn't think this was particularly fair. She was clearly stressed out and confused, but then she said something that I just couldn't feel sorry for. One of my signs that I had just done looked slightly, like a certain rude hand gesture. She goes ballistic. How dare you swear at me? I can get you fired for being such an idiot and waving your hands in my face. She continues on and on for another couple minutes until one of the kids shouts down and tells her to shut up and stop being horrible to me. I could have done that myself, but I was just tired and angry and arguing would not have helped anybody. Well, thank God for that kid, cause she looked ready to punch me. In the end, while we were sat doing nothing, her bus actually passed us, so when I finally convinced her to get off she must have waited for about 15 minutes for another bus. Next one is titled, Karen declares war on my parents for cutting a tree down on their own property. I, 25 male, have been living away from home ever since graduating from college. My parents both retired recently and last summer they decided to use some of the money they'd saved up to finally build their dream retirement home in New Orleans, where they've been living for the past 10 years. I come from a very tight-knit family, so I still talk to my parents every week, and they were so excited when they said they'd already picked out the location where they wanted the house built. It was an empty lot in a nice neighborhood where a house had been demolished not long before due to age, and the previous owner, who was pretty wealthy and owned numerous properties around the city, decided that the lot was worth more without the house on it. Anyway, my parents snapped it up as soon as it came on the market, but not long after construction began, they realized that they were building their dream house right next door to the lair of a wild Karen. The trouble started when my parents had to cut down a large oak tree that sat in the front of the lot. It was a real beauty, too, one of those big southern live oaks, and although they didn't want to, they knew they had to remove it because it was in the way. No one likes to cut down a big, beautiful tree, and believe me, if there was a way to avoid doing it without impeding the construction, my parents would have taken it. So, they called a tree removal service, and the tree was soon gone. Well, a few days after the tree had been cut down, my dad was on the property talking to some of the construction guys and making sure everything was going smoothly. He was going back to his car when he saw a woman in her late 50s walk out of the house next door and head to her mailbox. My dad, let's call him John, is a pretty chill and laid-back guy who likes to be on good terms with everyone, so he walked over and introduced himself. Hi, he said, holding out his hand, my name's John and my wife and I are going to be your neighbors once our house is finished. I just wanted to come over and say hi and introduce myself. It's nice to meet you. What's your name? Karen glanced at the extended hand, then looked up at my dad and glared at him. My name is none of your business, she snapped. I'm not going to shake your hand because of COVID, and even if there was no COVID, I still wouldn't shake your hand because you people ruined my life when you cut down my tree. I still can't believe how selfish you are. You should both be ashamed of yourselves." My dad was taken aback by this and pointed out that Karen already had a nice big oak tree in her backyard, but Karen ignored him and stalked back inside her house. She never explained why she thought she was the owner of the tree that had been cut down, not once, and whenever my parents asked about it, she refused to answer. I guess it's just one of those things we'll never know, like what really happened to the lost Roanoke colony or the fate of D.B. Cooper. My parents met some of their other neighbors later that day, including a nice elderly couple who lived in the other house next door Karen's, and when my dad told them what happened, the neighbors said Karen was like that to everyone and no one in the neighborhood liked her. They also said that Karen had been nasty to them for a long time and they were in the process of selling their house because they couldn't stand living next door to her anymore. Karen soon began living up to her reputation. For months, whenever my parents would visit the house to see how the construction was coming along, she'd find something to complain or confront them about. One time she said the construction workers were being too loud and threatened to call the police, even though it was the middle of the day. Another time she said that the construction company was using illegal immigrants as cheap labor and threatened to call ICE and have the whole project shut down. My dad mentioned this to the owner of the company, and the owner sent Karen a formal letter threatening a lawsuit if she tried. I don't know if there were any actual grounds for a lawsuit, but the threat must have worked because ICE never showed up. Oh, and then there was the time she tried to have my parents' car towed for illegal parking when they parked by the curb of their still unfinished house. The first my parents knew about this was when the tow truck showed up, but the driver took one look at where my parents' car was parked and told Karen he'd send her a bill for wasting his time if she called him again. I could go on. Karen did everything she could think of to try and interfere. She was absolutely relentless in her crusade to avenge a tree she never even owned. Happily, the house was completed despite her best efforts and my parents finally moved in not long after the holidays. My mom told me later that she caught Karen watching them bitterly from her window as they were taking some of their boxes inside. She was concerned that Karen might keep going and try something else, but I guess Karen was too busy wallowing in self-pity over her failure or something because things were actually quiet for a while. But a few weeks ago, things changed. New Orleans has had some really bad weather lately due to the winter storms that are battering much of the southern US right now, and one night, one of those storms was so powerful that it knocked over the tree in Karen's backyard. It missed falling onto her house, but it didn't miss falling onto her shiny new Jaguar and crushing it like a beer can. According to my folks, Karen didn't discover what happened until the following morning. When she came outside and saw the pile of scrap metal that used to be her car, she threw back her head and let out a primal scream like something out of The Exorcist. She had to pay a tree removal service to get rid of the tree, and then she had to pay for a tow truck to get rid of the car too, and then she had to get a rental car too. Karen put her property up for sale and moved out not long afterward. Everyone in the neighborhood was glad to see her go, and my parents enjoyed watching her drive off into the sunset from the front porch of their amazing new house. Edit. For clarification, Karen did not sell her house right away, she put it on the market and moved out of it as soon as she could. I don't know where she is now, but I'm guessing she's staying somewhere else while she waits for someone to buy the property. I don't know if anyone has bought it yet, but since there's a pandemic going on I think she'll be waiting for some time. Next one is entitled Neighbor Get Her Day. It's a long one but I hope it's worth it. I get a frantic call from my neighbor Dean who lives right behind me at 1:30 saying something about city being there and need to talk to me. Slight backstory. His neighbor is a Karen of the worst kind. She will call the city if the grass is above half-inch above city rules. Called the city on me for having chicken in my backyard. Didn't know I wasn't supposed to have them at the time. The neighbor city allowed it. Dean is an awesome guy who has known my wife since birth. He's in his 70s, retired Navy, worked on F-4, became a F-14 plane captain. The head guy who makes sure all maintenance is done right. I've known him for the past 15 years, really good guy, lots of fun stories. He had received a letter from the city the previous Monday that the roof on his shed did not meet city standards and either had to replace the roof or demolish it. Last Friday I got on the Orange Store site, ordered all the material for me to fix the roof. Typically he would jump in with me and we would both handle things. He's a fit sob, but he just got diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. He's tired all the time. Me in my 40s, no problem Dean, I got this. I'm a capable carpenter. 1:30 I tell my super got to go, neighbor having issues. I get there 1:50 since I'm close by. Get out of my truck with all the gear from the construction company I work for. The company I work for is a multi-million-dollar development company. And Karen starts. Karen. That's him, he's the one doing the work, with an evil grin. In my city, if you replace a roof on your house over 100 square feet, you need a permit that even a homeowner can pull. For a shed, however, you don't need a permit unless you're charging money, a contractor. I see a zoning guy, ZG, and 2 building inspector, 1 senior, SI, 1 junior, G. Senior inspector sees me. SI. Do you work with Vicky? Me. Yeah? Why? SI. Don't worry. What's your name? Me. Mark. G. What makes you think you can do roofing without a permit? I mean, with everything I see here, you're probably charging a pretty penny. Karen. He started Saturday so he could avoid you guys and make more money. That's how these guys work. Me. I'm helping Dean out. Phone rings. I have to take this, it's one of my boss. Vicky is calling me. I called her and check on stuff knowing full well $1 million company wouldn't be doing a shed roof for just some old guy. Vicky is a Virginia Tech graduate who became a supervisor right out of school. We have worked on projects 5 years ago when all she was is book smart. She's a lot younger than I am and had a rough start because she thought she needed to show dominance. She didn't, but she did have to learn real quick that paper doesn't always go as planned. Her dad is the head structural engineer that all city inspectors have to follow, and he's well liked by all inspectors. So, all inspectors know her. I was with Vicky when I ordered the material Friday. She wanted to know what was up and in a nutshell told her Karen was being a witch and causing trouble. She goes, not for long. Back at junior. G. So what's the value of the contract? Karen. Yeah, how much you charging? Me. Nothing. So, I guess zero? G. What do you mean zero? That's all brand new material. Me. Oh, material was $700, but Dean purchased it. Here's the receipt with his name on it. Karen. You can't hide all the money you're charging. Look at all the air hose and nail guns with big brand name saw. Me. What's your point? SI. Gets a text, looks at it really quick. Mark, where do you live? Me. Right there, pointing out the house behind. SI. So, I'll take it that you're really close to homeowner Dean since you have a gate going through it. Me. Yes sir, especially since Dean got diagnosed with cancer, I've been checking on him a little more. Then he got the letter stating he has to fix it. I'm just trying to take off some stress off the old fart. SI. Roger that, in this case it's as if one of his children did it. Karen. What does that mean? SI. It means if Mark isn't charging him, no matter what tools he owns, he doesn't need a permit. Karen. I had to pay $3,500 to get my garage done 3 months ago and he gets off just paying $700. SI. Yeep. Mark. Do you mind if I take a look at your work? Me. Sure can. Jumps up on the roof and calls ZG. After COVID, every inspector has been equipped with iPads so they can do virtual inspection. This iPad is also connected to all city property as in what permits got pulled and what not, and he brought his with him on the roof. SI. Looks pretty solid. Me. Yeep, had to change plywood and replace a couple of 2x4. SI. Is that a pond next door? Me. Sure does. SI. Did you do a site visit for a pond? ZG. ZG. I sure didn't. Did you do a site visit for the roof on the garage? Sure looks like 500 square feet. Oh, that concrete back there looks pretty fresh. Me. Yeep, she had it done in May, with an evil grin since I figured out the game. SI. Let me get some pictures of all of this. We get off the roof. SI. Junior, what's the penalty for altering and remodeling a roof without a permit? G. $50 per 100 square feet plus all new work must be torn down and re-inspected, sir. Karen. Is that what you found on Dean's roof? Because of the repairs he's getting all that. Evil grin is back looking at me. SI. Junior, what's the penalty for pouring concrete without checking with zoning and without a permit? G. $200 per 100 square feet, sir. All has to be demo and check with watershed. Karen. But there's no concrete here. SI. Junior, what's the penalty for a pond over 1,500 gallon without checking with zoning or building permit? Karen's face went pale. No more grin. G. Huh, I don't know. ZG. I do. $75 for electrical connections without permit plus $1,500 a day that the pond is there without permission, and since it's up against the fence there's a 10 feet watershed water easement for water to perk there. It's not going to happen even with a variance. The pond is 16 feet by 16 feet triangle shaped. Karen. You're not supposed to look at my yard, you're here for this yard. Do you know who I am? I know Melon. He's your boss, he'll fix all you. SI. Yeah, I know Melon too. He got fired 2 months ago for taking bribes, so we have a new boss, Karen, and she's by the book, trying to clean up Melon's mess. Karen. Leaving? I can't believe this crap, that's not how it's supposed to go, damn it. I'm laughing a little too loud. Update. 1. I'm working with Vicky this morning. The call that SI did was to see if this was just side money. She confirmed that no, it was not, that I was in fact helping free of charge, and if I needed any company assistance that I would get it. After Vicky called me, she sent a text to SI and she showed me. It read, "Make the witch pay. Thanks for listening."